HMOs versus buy-to-let. Is the extra hassle worth it? There's Article 4 in most areas. All your money out, commercial valuations, beware.
I'm Adam.
I'm Jess.
We are forthelandlords.com.
If you are a landlord or you want to be, we help you start, scale or optimise your property portfolio. We want you to get more money, less hassle and all your time back.
All right then, let's get into it. HMOs versus buy-to-let. Is the extra cash flow worth all the extra stress and work that goes into it?
It's going to be one of those depends, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, don't think that buying a HMO just means I'm going to make 3 or 4 times the money I would from a normal buy-to-let and brilliant. There is a lot more work involved. Right from the very start. Finding the correct property to begin with is much harder.
There are less suitable properties
Much
there
less.
are. If you want to buy a 3-bedroom terraced house or semi, or there's lots of those. If you want to buy a house that can be converted into a 5 or 6 bed HMO, there are less of them.
Yeah, it needs to be a certain size, or the rooms have to be to the right requirements and square meters, etc. So it's hard to find.
Sometimes when we've been finding them, we buy HMOs, lots. To the nearest, I'll look at a house and go, I count the bricks across, and if it hasn't got those 2 extra bricks or that bit over the alleyway or the particular street I'll be talking about, it won't work. And I've seen landlords buy the wrong house and build it all out, and the council come around, put a measuring tape over it and say, you're a square metre under per room, and you can't rent that out. That's a real risk. So
the other thing,
finding a house is hard.
So, yes, it definitely cash flows you more each month.
You'll also pay more for the house.
That's what I say. But not just the house. So you've got to pay a lot more for the house, you've got to buy a bigger one. You've got to spend a hell of a lot more money on the renovation, because you've got to spend money on things that don't even add value, that you wouldn't put in a normal buy-to-let. Extra fireboarding, extra fire regs, electrical regs, furniture. You've got furniture, 5-bed house and all the communal spaces.
All that costs money.
10 to 12 grand straight
it
away.
does not add value.
Yeah, it's not any value.
You can't skimp, because otherwise, don't forget, all of this stuff, at the end of it, you've got to get a licence.
Yeah.
So you can't skimp. You
And
can't.
you've got to find the right tenants.
You can't not fireboard those and do that. So some of them you're going to be checked. You need the licence. You need the fire certificate.
I don't want to put you off HMOs. If you are really serious about doing a HMO, and we've done 50, 60 of them, nowadays it has to be all en suite. They just won't get the rental demand if they're not en suite as well. So that all goes into it. You've got to find a really suitable house close to local amenities, a town centre, or on transport links, close to big employers, hospitals, or large industry.
Should we put a bit of a positive spin on it
Yeah.
now as well? So maybe we'll put you off a little bit, but that's the idea. On the flip side, if you do it well, if you buy the right house, you do it well, and you've got to be really careful what you spend, obviously. I've seen people going to town with really nice finishes is the wrong word, but overly fancy finish. Always put a nice finish in, but overly fancy. A hot tub in the garden. They've spent way too much, and the finish isn't very durable. I'll say that. So a nice wallpapered wall. You'll come back a year later, and not only have you spent £1,000 on it, lots of expensive wallpaper, it's now ruined and it doesn't look very good. So the fixtures and fittings and the finish have got to be very specific. They've got to look wow. They've got to pop on the
You're right. HMOs do work, but there's a lot to be said about boring buy-to-lets that the banks prefer them. It's really easy to finance. Really easy to finance a buy-to-let compared to a HMO, which there's less lenders. If you're a first-time investor and you don't have any buy-to-let properties, you probably won't qualify for any type of HMO finance, or if you do, you're going to have 1 or 2 lenders available to you. A lot of people don't realise that.
Quick little mention about the ongoing management as well. It does take more management.
5 tenants. More management.
Yeah. And the
more wear and tear.
Weekly cleaning, the fire test alarm, the maintenance of the garden, the fact that when something gets broken, you can't pin it on one tenant. If the oven gets broken, none of the tenants will admit it.
We're really trying to put people off HMO. I mean, we're actually one of the few letting agents that are happy to manage HMO. A lot of letting agents don't actually like them.
I own HMOs myself. Yeah. We manage plenty of HMOs. HMOs work. Just be aware. More money up front. The return isn't as that headline figure. The net is better, but not as good as maybe you'd write it down and be very optimistic on a piece of paper, and the management takes a lot more. Are they worth it? If you're prepared for all that, you work your numbers out very carefully, yeah, absolutely.
Like we always say, right house, right area, we'll find you the right tenants, and then it should cash flow. Moving on then, another thing to consider with HMOs is Article 4, and that is in most cities now, especially student towns.
It's in places where you'd want to put an HMO, and that's why it's there. Should we explain what Article 4 is?
Yeah, let's do it.
You'll have heard that HMOs need a licence, and this is completely different. There are towns and cities where properties need a licence, HMOs nationally need a licence, but Article 4 is completely different. It's nothing to do with licensing, it's to do with planning permission. It's called, if you wanted to look it up, it was at the point when there was a coalition between the Conservative and the Liberal Democrats, and just as that government came in, there was a piece of legislation left on the table that said it was going to come in nationwide, and that coalition government left it for councils to decide under sui generis rules whether or not they require an HMO to have planning or not. So some councils have it, some don't. The council would bring it in an area where they think there's oversaturation of HMOs. So,
like I said, a lot of student towns.
The places where you generally want to be, where you know it works. Although there's definitely oversaturation in places, and you wouldn't want to be there because you can't rent the thing out. So in some towns and cities, you have Article 4, and in order to put an HMO in place, not only do you need to build it to the right rules and regs and get a licence separately over there, you also need planning permission. And quite simply, in lots of places, they aren't granting the planning permission. Simple as that.
I know there's horror stories of people who didn't really get what Article 4 is. They've gone and sourced themselves a lovely house, converted it into a beautiful HMO, and the council come along and go, you can't do that.
Yep, I've seen it.
We won't let you rent it out.
Not only have I seen that, I've then seen very naughtily that same property being sold, and then somebody's bought it and then found out that they can't do it as well. So yeah, if you don't know that that's needed or not needed, you can end up with a property that you've built as an HMO, spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on maybe in that case, and now can't rent out as an HMO, which would be rather a disaster.
So to summarise, Article 4 is basically something they brought in to stop new HMOs being created. Okay, so moving on then, the final point today is commercial valuations. Getting all your money out, I think you need to be very careful. So let's quickly explain what a commercial valuation is compared to a normal one, and why you need to be a bit wary when you get yourself into
lots of conversations with potential clients, developers in this town. We're in Nottingham, and I know quite a few people that are doing it, watching it being done, and I've got a friend group that they're landlords, developers, and we talk about this a lot because we see people getting into trouble. I've got.
So just tell everyone then, what is a commercial valuation?
Commercial valuation. So step back, a bricks and mortar valuation is what you know. The bricks and mortar on this house is worth that. And when you're then going to convert the house into an HMO, you can occasionally step away from that. So instead of being that house is worth £300,000 as a house, it's worth a yield on its rent. So if you've got a shop or a warehouse, generally speaking, they will be valued on what they rent for times a yield. So the higher yield you'll expect, the lower the value will be, and vice versa. So an HMO valuer will come along to the property and say, this HMO brings in X amount times the yield, therefore it's worth this much. So you can end up with a much, much higher valuation.
In the north, typically that is. In the south, it's probably worth more bricks and mortar.
Possibly. Sometimes it's a crossover.
So what a lot of people who are sourcing HMOs will tell someone, you only need to spend X amount on this, and when it's all said and done, you get a commercial valuation more than what you've spent on buying the house and renovating it. You get all your money back out, and you can just go and do another one. And the risk of that is the commercial valuation is a lot higher than the true valuation of the building if it were just valued as bricks and mortar.
There's quite a few risks built into that. The first thing is you might not get that commercial valuation.
Yeah. That's because if you're a first-time HMO landlord, they'll look at you and go, no.
No. It's harder to get a commercial valuation on a smaller property. You know, if it's a 10, 20 bedroom HMO, you probably will get it.
And it's a hotel.
Well,
I don't so.
If it's a 5 or 6 bedroom, it's less likely. If you do get the commercial valuation, there's more fees, surveyors, fees for it. Your percentage you're paying will be higher.
Higher, much higher.
Here's the thing, your loan to value might be lower. You might actually not be better off with the commercial valuation because the loan might be
60%.
back, yeah. So 60% is less anyway, so that can happen.
Yeah.
So the big thing there would be you're so over leveraged you don't make any money every month. That can happen. But here's the thing that I think is the biggest trap. If you do manage to pull it all off, you get the higher valuation, high loan to value. Yeah, you're paying a little bit more per month, but you can live with it. And the thing is stacking and it's making the right amount of money. I today know of only 2 lenders. You might say there's 5, but actually I don't think these ones are going to be in it for long and they come in and out. There's 2, and you know who they are if you know who they are. And I know those lenders, and they're in and out. They're fickle. They're not bad lenders. I've got money with them on other things, but next month they might be lending for something else or in a different way. If you take a 3-year deal with one of those lenders or a 5-year deal, what happens at the end of those 2 or 3 years when they don't want to refinance at that new rate and you've taken out more money than the thing's worth
as a bricks and mortar,
and you can't refinance it out? Now, if you have factored that in, because you're buying a business, if you bought a hotel, you put the money in, you take the cash flow out, and you think it all works, and as long as that works for the next decade, and I've taken my money back out, fine. You know, if you're planning it that way. But if you've just got, oh yeah, it's worth that, and I've taken the money out, and I've lived on it, and it's the only HMOs you've got, you haven't got a deep portfolio of another 100 properties underneath, I think you could find yourself in trouble in 2 or 3 years when you come off the end and you find those lenders won't support you anymore.
Okay, so today's hot take then.
We're going to summarise it all. If you want simplicity and ease of management, go buy to let. If you're prepared to take slightly higher risks, put more effort in, put more capital in, HMO. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for that. If you've enjoyed today's video, please click like, please subscribe, and leave us a comment down below. Do you think HMOs are better than buy-to-lets? Also, we've got an upcoming webinar. There's a link below for that. You could also book to join our community or book a call to meet one of my team. So thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.